Hi, everyone. Welcome to Red Sox Weekly on BostonSportsRadio.net. As usual, I'm Ashish Sharma, joined by Brian Roach, and we got a lot to get to today. It's been a pretty eventful last few weeks, I'd say, Brian, with regards to everything happening in baseball, not just with the Red Sox. Let's start by talking about these suspensions that were handed out by Major League Baseball with regards to the Biogenesis scandal. Some of the big names just came out, and some of the guys that have been accused, or rather have been proven to be linked with Biogenesis Labs, have accepted their suspensions, specifically Nelson Cruz, Johnny Peralta, and I think the biggest name is A-Rod, who could be facing a 2-year ban. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, it's a big effect on at least the wild card race with Nelson Cruz, because Texas right now is half game out of the spot behind Cleveland. Peralta will be out for a long time for the Tigers the rest of this regular season, and that's going to come big because he was like one of the best shortstops in the league, and the whole A-Rod thing, he hasn't even accepted it yet. He plans to appeal it because of the due process and not enough like information on him, which is what how Ryan Braun was able to escape his first attempt at being suspended when he appealed it. So A-Rod will still be playing for the time being, and it could take up to 2 months to figure out if A-Rod will face the suspension at full.
Yeah, no, it'll certainly be interesting. I know Brian Cashman and the Yankees are dying to let this thing kind of go through because they are on the hook for over $100 million for A-Rod over the next few years in what is widely regarded as probably the worst sports contract, or at least in baseball, that, maybe ever. You're talking about a guy that's signed into his mid-40s who stopped producing maybe 2 years ago. So, the Yankees are certainly in trouble. Obviously, on a slight, tangent, Derek Jeter might go back on the DL. So this could maybe open the door for the Yankees to kind of start their rebuilding process. I think they are now at a point where they're losing a lot of their main guys. Obviously, A-Rod, Jeter, Mariano Rivera is retiring after this year. So it'll be interesting to see how the Yankees kind of bounce back after all of this. But yes, this is kind of the big news that's coming out of Major League Baseball right now, are the suspensions that are being handed out to guys like Nelson Cruz, Johnny Peralta, A-Rod, Gio Gonzalez, and all these other guys, these 20 names on the list. Now,
Well,
moving back to
Gio
your...
Gonzalez
Oh,
was
go ahead.
cleared. So
Oh,
him
was
and
he? I missed that.
yeah, he was cleared. There were only 12 people suspended. Three were minor leaguers. Three new names came out: Jordy Velazquez, Antonio Bastardo, and another a guy who's a free agent right now.
What about
So
Bartolo Colon?
Bartolo and Melky Cabrera both won't face suspensions again because apparently their previous suspensions were related to the
Okay.
biogenesis
Okay.
somehow. So
Okay. Well, there you go. I didn't know that. I didn't know that Gio Gonzalez was cleared. I'm kind of happy. I like Gio Gonzalez. He's a good
yeah,
pitcher. So yeah. No, moving back, as I was saying, to more of the Red Sox-centric news. The trade deadline has now officially come and gone, and I wouldn't say the Red Sox made a blockbuster move, but they did acquire Jake Peavy in a deal that included Jose Iglesias going to the Detroit Tigers. I love this deal, Brian. I think this gives the Red Sox a lot of flexibility with their pitching. We talked about how they needed to bolster the starting rotation as well as the bullpen. And they really didn't give up all that much, if you ask me. I mean, Jose Iglesias was having a great year, but when you look at the organizational depth that they have at shortstop, they really didn't give up all that much.
yeah. And Iglesias was starting to come back to earth. He had like one extra base hit his last like month,
Hmm.
and his average plummeted to like 200 his last like 25, 30 games. So yeah, I mean he has a stellar glove, but his offense is a subject at best, a suspect at best. So yeah, I mean Jake Peavy, though he's legally blind without his contacts in,
Hmm.
he'll probably be great for the Red Sox for the last 2 months for the playoff push. PV hasn't done great in playoffs. He has like a 12 ERA
Hmm.
in two postseason appearances. Um, but no, he did great his first start, 7 innings, 7 Ks, only 2 runs. Um, so yeah, I mean we'll see how it goes, but
Yeah, no, I mean, just to kind of play off your point that Jake Peavy is not really known as a playoff guy. I mean, like the sample size, if you ask me, is way too small. He's made two
Yeah.
starts in the playoffs, so it's a little bit it's a kind of a tricky game to play to say that he's not a playoff guy because we don't know that. Maybe he just had a couple bad starts and that was it. And that now we're going to judge him based on that. I do like Jake Peavy. He's a former Cy Young Award winner. Obviously, his best days are behind him, but he's still a guy that can get it done. As you said the other day, 7 innings in his debut, or 7+, 2 earned runs, 7 strikeouts. And, he's a former Triple Crown winner, so he's definitely got the stuff. At the age of 32, he's still under contract with the Red Sox beyond this year and for an additional year into next year. And I think that gives the Red Sox some flexibility heading into the offseason
Hmm.
to kind of kick the tires on whether or not they want to bring back John Lester, whether or not they want to trade Ryan Dempster. So I do like the Jake Peavy deal with that taken into account, and on top of the fact that he is just a great veteran presence. He's another character guy. As you saw the other day on the mound, I
He's
mean, he
very
was
emotional.
very emotional. He reminds me of Josh Beckett, except actually a version that I like. He's beating himself up pitch
Yeah.
after pitch when he's missing location. I love that. I love that in a guy like kind of like John Lackey, who now all of a sudden we all love. A guy that shows that emotion out there. So
Hmm.
I do like the deal, and I think that this opens up the door for Xander Bogaerts down the road because as you know, Will Middlebrooks is not up here. Stephen Drew he's got the rest of his contract for this year, and at third base, the Red Sox are kind of going with a combination of Brock Holt and Brandon Snyder until either Will Middlebrooks or Xander Bogaerts proves that they're ready to come up and fill that role.
Yeah, I mean, Middlebrooks has struggled recently, not at the plate, but in the field. Yesterday he had 2 errors, but he's starting to hit more consistently. He has um, hits in his last 3 games after being ejected. Bogarts has been hitting doubles left and right, but I mean, Bogarts has only 6 games at third base, so there's no way they're going to call him up to play third base right now. Uh,
Right, right. No, it'll
yeah,
be interesting to see where they put him. Obviously, Stephen Drew is a shortstop strictly, so there's no moving him around. Although I do like the idea of moving Xander Bogaerts to third base because he does have some flexibility. He can also play the outfield. But just based on what I've been reading about Xander Bogaerts and hearing about him over the last few weeks, he has drawn comparisons to Mike Trout. I mean, he's the number 3
yeah,
prospect in the league. And he's one guy that the Red Sox consider virtually untouchable, which is why they didn't even include his name in any trades. So he's a guy that I think we might see when the rosters expand in September. I
yeah,
would be surprised if you didn't see Xander Bogaerts come up because I think he can be that valuable to a team that is making a playoff push. Because as much as I love what Brock Holt has done, especially defensively, and the fact that he can just lay down bunts and do all the proper things. Although a couple days ago he wasn't able to bunt when we really needed one, and we ended up losing
hmm
that game. But in general, Brock Holt has impressed me. Brandon Snyder has impressed me. I think Xander Bogaerts is the guy that's going to get the nod in a few weeks when he is ready to make his major league debut.
yeah. I can see that. It really depends on what the Red Sox think. Like, seeing as he's only 20, the matureness factor and stuff like that. I mean, I know Mike Trout made his debut earlier than that. Same with Bryce Harper. So
Hmm. So it'll certainly be interesting to see. The door is open right now. Although the Red Sox are playing well, I think you are going to see Xander Bogaerts up here in the next few weeks. Let's switch gears now, Brian. I want to talk about the Tampa Bay Rays, who year after year seem to be a bee in the bonnet for the Red Sox. I mean, they're just always there, regardless of what's going on with them. Matt Moore just went on the DL, but they're still just a game back of the Sox in the AL East. And I think it's really going to come down to the wire. The Yankees aren't really a factor this year. We know that. The Toronto Blue Jays are way too far out. The Baltimore Orioles are kind of hanging around. But I think it's going to come down to the Sox and the Rays as they battle it out for the rights to win the division in the American League East.
yeah, I mean, the Rays pitching staff is phenomenal. Chris Archer that came up and has blown everyone away. Healthy David Price is back, throwing
Mm-hmm.
97. He had 2 phenomenal dominant outings against the Red Sox. Won a complete game, won 7 innings, but he if the rain didn't come, he would have gotten a complete game, like 1-run contest
And
against the
speaking of
Red
complete
Sox
games,
again.
isn't it like the Rays have like a complete game every other day? Doesn't it seem like that? Like every time I turn on SportsCenter, it's like, oh, another complete game for the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah, even Roberto is through one of his last couple starts. So I mean that's crazy too. So
Yeah, no, see the thing is the Rays, as we've talked about and as we all know, they're not really known as an offensive-minded team. They've always won their games on pitching, and
mhm,
that's really what frightens me because the Red Sox historically don't perform well against David Price.
yeah,
They've beaten Matt Moore a couple times this year. But in general, when it comes down to playoff time, and if these two teams meet in a crucial game that could decide the American League East, I don't want to be facing David Price, especially when he's pitching like this. Let's be honest, he was pitching like crap at the beginning of this year, but that kind of led to him going on the DL, and we found out that there was something going on with him in terms of his health. But
mhm,
now that they have a healthy David Price, I'm afraid. So it'll be interesting to see. Although the Red Sox themselves have been playing some good baseball recently. They just came off a 5-2 homestand in which they got some clutch performances down the road, had some great comebacks. Obviously, the two back-to-back walk-offs. I don't know which one I liked more, the 15-inning one or the one where they came back from down 5 in the bottom of the ninth. I think both of
uh,
those were spectacular.
I think the second one was more phenomenal. I mean, the 15-inning one was a very long game. It looked like neither team would do anything offensively, but
Mhm.
no, the 6 runs in the ninth, that was crazy because most of their runs were scored with with 0 outs.
Right.
So they were just able to get walks, get clutch hits. Daniel Nava had the walk-off single. Johnny Gomes had a nice at bat. I mean, it could have gone either way. Like there was a close play at the plate. Ellsbury could have been out. Johnny Gomes took a pitch that might have been a strike.
Yeah.
Um, if the umpire makes a few different calls, it could have been a whole different game. But it's been a crazy season. 11 total walk-offs now. That's like it's almost a third of their home wins. So
Yeah, and I remember John Farrell talking about in this post-game press conference, just described it as magical, and to
hmm
me, the last time I saw such a miraculous comeback like that in the ninth was the Mother's Day Miracle in 2007.
yeah,
So, and also the funny thing about that game is in my 23 years of watching baseball, I have never seen a coach, or in that case, the acting manager, come out and make such a stupid mistake to point to his left arm when he actually wanted the righty, and then he tried to kind
yeah,
of make the switch. He's like, no, 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 I was just, I meant this. And I've never, ever seen that where the umpire was like, no, you signal for the lefty, you're bringing out your lefty. And
yeah,
kind of right then and there, you could kind of get, again, you're still down 5 runs. You could kind of get the sense that, wait, this might kind of be the start of something here. So that was really interesting. But
yeah.
as you mentioned, with Johnny Gomes, he has just been fantastic this year when you're
hmm
talking about a guy that, he knows his role. He knows
Yeah.
that he's not the everyday left fielder. That role was earned by Daniel Nava early in the season. Johnny Gomes is earning more playing time now. And, we talked about how he's not really known to be a great defensive player. He's been making clutch defensive plays left and right over the last
Unassisted
2 weeks.
double play.
Unassisted double plays. I mean, when do you ever see that? So,
It's
and
very
crashing
rare.
into the wall.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, like I thought that was hilarious. He just goes in and he makes a great catch, and then he just
He's
kind of
he's been making
Raul
great throws
Ibanez.
too. He threw someone out at the plate the other day in a close
That's
game.
right.
So
That's right. So I'm very impressed with what I've been seeing from Johnny Gomes, and this team is just finding a new hero every day. It seems like,
yeah.
and
Victorino's starting to heat up
fantastic.
too. Victorino's up to 290. He was at 276. So Victorino's starting to heat up. Ellsbury's been good. Pedroia's starting to heat up again.
Pedroia's kind of he got off to a slow start out of the gate after the All-Star break, but now he's starting to come out of it. He had 2 home runs in 2 games, so you're seeing a lot of good different guys step up. And one guy that I think has been flying under the radar the whole season that we are now just starting to take notice of is Felix Dubron.
Yeah.
This is a guy that has 15 straight starts of allowing 3 earned runs or less.
Yeah, 18 of
So,
19 too.
to me,
So he's been
18
brilliant.
of yeah, there you go. Yeah, Felix Dubron has been absolutely fantastic, and I think the reason he has kind of gone, as I said, under the radar is because of that horrific start he got up to in April and into early May. He just wasn't pitching well. He was flat. He was leaving a lot of balls up in the zone. He was getting hit. He was walking guys. But now, all of a sudden, he has turned into this magnificent lefty that, as I've said in past shows, has kind of made you think, well, maybe John Lester becomes a lot more expendable this offseason, you know?
Well, it's good to have a couple lefties in the rotation. You don't just want one lefty. You want like one or two, at least two in a rotation. I mean, I'm not saying that Lester's not expendable, but I'm saying that Lester isn't as good as everyone thinks he should be. Like, when people are thinking he's like CC Sabathia from 3 years ago. But Lester's more of a guy. He'll go out there. He'll throw strike. Well, he won't
Hmm.
throw that many strikes, but he'll give you 6 innings of work, 3 runs, which is technically a quality start. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what they'll do with Lester in the offseason, especially
Yeah, no,
since contract will be up soon. So
right, right. And as we've talked about, he does have the $13 million club option, and the way he's pitched this year, I think that price is a little steep, to be honest with you. And it'll be interesting to see how the Red Sox play it. If I was Ben Sherrington, I would still look. John Lester's a horse. We know he's going to give you
hmm
200 innings a year, and to me, that's a lot of value. But if we're gonna, go out and say that John Lester's the number one or that he's the ace, I don't think he's the ace anymore. It's clearly Clay Buchholz if he can stay healthy. You know,
yeah,
but if Buckles could stay healthy and pitch the way he has over, until he got hurt this year and the way he did in 2010, and even if in 2011, or rather in 2012, when everyone sucked, Clay Buckles wasn't all that great himself, but he had the best ERA out of
yeah.
anyone on the rotation. So I think now it is Clay Buckles, and it'll be interesting to see, Brian, if they decide to maybe pick up that option and then trade John Lester, depending on how he pitches down the stretch. Maybe his value goes up.
Yeah, it
Or maybe they just
depends
let him
on what they
walk.
would get for him and whatnot. Also, like what
Exactly.
the
So
market
it'll
is
be. I
for
mean,
him. So
exactly. So when you have an option, you kind of have those other options. You could let him
yeah,
walk. You could pick up the option to keep him. You could pick up the option to trade him, or you could decline the option and sign him to a different deal. So Ben Sherrington certainly has his options with John Lester. It'll be interesting to see, and I think that picture on what will happen with John Lester this offseason will become clearer as we get into September and then into October and then eventually offseason.
yeah,
So, staying with the starting pitching, Brian, I want to move on to John Lackey, who's been, as we know, absolutely fantastic this season. We didn't expect anything from him, and he's been kind of this breath of fresh air. He has struggled though in his last 3 outings. He now has an ERA over those last 3 outings over 5. His overall ERA, I believe, stands at 3.23, something like that, something
yeah,
in that ballpark, right? But he's still kind of, despite struggling, kind of gives you this sense that he's a guy now that when you give him the ball, in any game, that you have a chance to win.
yeah. He's been going. He's had 6 innings or more in his 9 straight starts now, and I mean, I'm not gonna say it's like a cupcake when he goes tonight against Houston, but
Mhm.
Houston's offense is iffy,
Yeah,
to say the least. I mean,
not exactly the best offense in the league.
yeah, exactly. They're like bottom of the AL in runs
Mhm.
scored. I mean, this could be a good outing for him. Help him get back on the mend. It's going to be interesting because the Sox are going with a 6-man rotation this week. They're putting Stephen Wright in
Mhm.
Game 2 of this Houston
That's
series
right.
in order to give Dempster, Lester, everyone an extra day of rest. So, I mean, that pushes Lester to face Kansas City instead of Houston, but Kansas City's offense isn't all that great either. But they're starting to be contending for that second wild card spot as well. So
Right, and this is an important stretch for the Red Sox, not because they're facing good teams, in fact, because they're facing horrible teams, and they need to win these games. These are the
yeah,
games that you absolutely have to have if you're the top team in the American League. And I'm expecting them to go into Houston and get a sweep, or at least take 2 out of 3.
yeah,
And go on and win the rest of their games on this road trip, which actually doesn't seem all that hard at all.
hmm
And the way the bullpen has sort of come together recently, I know we've been getting on this bullpen, this up and down season. They started off pretty good, then they were absolutely awful. Now it seems like they're back, towards being a good bullpen again. I mean, they have a
oh,
lot of guys that have stepped up. I mean, Drake Britton is a guy that's really impressed me. I mean, I don't know how many appearances he's made, but I think it's 9 appearances in 9 innings.
no, it's
Um,
I believe he has 10 appearances.
10 appearances, totaling 9 innings.
Yeah.
Or actually, you know what, Brian? I believe it's seven. I believe it's seven, but don't quote me on that. I think I remember reading that somewhere. But in any
Oh
case,
yeah,
he has
seven
9 innings.
seven appearances, nine
Yeah,
innings. Yeah, that's
he has nine
right.
innings of work in any case, and he has not yet allowed an earned run. So this is
Yeah.
a
Yep.
guy that, again, really small sample size, 9 innings, but that's still significant enough to say, wow, I'm pretty impressed by what I've seen so far from Drake Britton.
Oh yeah, this bullpen with all the added arms from Pawtucket, Brandon Workman, he's going to be in the bullpen.
Hmm.
Um,
I think
Daniel
he might
Nettles
be my.
going on
I think he might
paternity
be my
leave. Yeah.
favorite. Yeah, I think Brandon Moore Workman might be my favorite Red Sox pitching prospect right now. I mean, he has been absolutely phenomenal in the starting rotation. I actually went
Hey,
to a game that he
just wait
started a
until
few.
this 40-man roster comes into play on September 1st. You can have Renato up. He did great.
Hmm.
Henry Owens maybe an appearance. Henry Owens made a great Portland debut. 11 Ks his first Portland start. Renato was scoreless in his 6 innings of work. They have a lot of great arms that they could use, maybe for a spot start, maybe for some bullpen help.
Right.
But
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think we are going to see a lot of these guys play important roles in September down the stretch for this
yeah,
Red Sox bullpen that was slightly weakened
maybe give
at one point, but it's now
Uehara
sort of on
some
the
time
upturn.
off too. That'd be good
Yeah, no,
because
that's
he's
the
been
one
used a
thing I worry
lot.
about with Coach Uehara. Yeah, I worry about the durability factor with Coach Uehara. He's not exactly young, so
Yeah,
he's a guy that's not going to be working a lot on back-to-back days. I mean, even though he is the closer and he's going to come into every safe situation or almost every safe situation, you don't want to overwork him. So it'll be interesting to see, as you said, how these relievers come up and make an impact when they are eventually called up. I
hmm
believe, as soon as the roster expands on September 1st, you're going to see a lot of these guys. So let's switch gears now to some of the more position players. I want to talk specifically about Stephen Drew, who has been red hot recently. I've
hmm
seen. Uh, Let me see. I was looking at his stats earlier today. Let me pull it up. Okay, on the homestand, he went 8 for 22 with a double, a home run, 2 runs, 4 RBI, 4 walks, and a sacrifice fly.
yeah,
And over that span, over the last 4 games rather, he's 467 with 4 RBI. So he's really starting to heat up. And we talked about how the Drew brothers can be a little streaky,
yeah.
and that's no different for Steven. And he does have one of the walk-off hits in the 15-inning game. He came through, and I think that Stephen Drew, although we've been getting on him, I think he's a relatively good. I mean, like, he's been producing in spots this year, and we haven't been giving him a lot of credit, partially because he tends to disappear for 2 weeks at a time. But when he comes through and when he gets hot, he gets white hot.
Yeah, and even in that 6-run rally in the ninth, he drew a clutch walk. He what JD Drew did in the Mother Day mirror. He
Yeah.
drew a walk. So I mean, uh, that's what he's good at. He's very patient at the plate. He battled back from an 0-2 count to for that walk. So I mean, he's shown some pop lately. With that home run, tied the game that Lester really struggled in with against the Diamondbacks to tie the game at 6. But yeah, he's been doing great offensively. Um, I mean, if he starts to struggle again, maybe Bogarts can, starting in September, can play shortstop from like 2 times a week. So
Right. Right, yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see if this continues. And like I said, the way the Red Sox are playing right now, there's a lot to feel good about. And this is a pretty good stretch that they have coming up here that they can win a lot of games. As I mentioned, 10-game road trip. Houston, Kansas City for 4, and then Toronto before returning home to Boston. So tonight it'll be John Lackey taking the hill in Houston versus Brett Oberholzer. Never heard of this guy, but I guess that's a good
he
thing. Must
had
be a
a
prospect.
great start against Baltimore. He got his first major league win. He went 7 innings, had 6 strikeouts. So I
Oh,
mean,
well, there you go. And hey, and just for the record, everyone, this is not an interleague game. Remember, the Astros are in the American League now. I have to keep reminding
yeah.
myself of that, because when I'm talking to people, I'll be like, "Oh, interleague's tonight," and they're like, "No, it's not."
Well, it was
So,
weird because the Red Sox pitchers were taking BP on Sunday
yeah, I
morning.
saw that.
Um,
I saw
and
that. So I think that's what kind of threw me off a little too.
so I mean, they're good in LA, but
Right, right. So I think that, yeah, but it is, for lifelong baseball watchers, it's still going to take a while. I mean, I still call Citi Field Shea Stadium, so it takes me a while to kind of get used to things. So yep, the Astros are now an American League team. This
yeah.
is still American League ball tonight. John Lackey versus Brett Oberholzer tonight should be a good game. For Brian Roach, I'm Ashish Sharma. This was Red Sox Weekly. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. And take it easy. Enjoy Red Sox baseball, and we'll see you next time. Peace.